the ant analogy. So in entertainment, a higher being usually calls a human an ant, compares them to the ants. Uh, Odin was talking to Tony and told Tony that he's basically an ant. That's because the universe is so vast. He's so much stronger. He's a higher, bigger, superior, older, everything being. And therefore, Tony is an ant to him, and so are all other humans. And then, he shows Tony's like, look how big the universe is. Do you think you're, the center of the universe? And it's like, that's not true. So in Invincible, the show, the father tells his son that his wife is a pet to him, which also, how does that make sense? You communicate with her, you spend time with her, you have sex with her. Are you having sex with pets, sir, on your planet? Did you have sex with pets? Is that what we're getting at? You're the equivalent to that is you're fucking your dog. So I don't like this analogy at all when a higher humanoid being calls a human an ant. Because it just doesn't make sense. I get it, you're trying to basically just say, fuck you, like you're a subspecies, I'm so much better than you, I'm superior, yeah boy. But in the end, that's not what makes humans to ants, that's not what the gap is. Like, you might be over-exaggerating, that's possible, but again, it just doesn't make sense. I'd rather you use a better analogy. So, why do we consider ants ants? Why do we, as humans, use the ant analogy on ants? Well, we can't talk to the ants, can't clearly communicate with them. We're bigger, we're stronger, we live longer, those traits. We don't personally like them, they're not useful to us. They're just there. And we consider them a subspecies. Or human, and generally people consider them a subspecies. But let's think about why. Why plants are another thing. These vegans, they destroy and eat plants like they're nothing, yet they want to protect the animals. Well, why don't they want to protect plants as well? Because plants are living creatures too. They just aren't fuzzy. They don't have eyes. They don't walk around. They don't exhibit human-like behavior. So I would argue you have the physical aspect. You're stronger. You live longer. You're more intelligent. You've had more experience because you're older. Those are all great in all these gods. But that doesn't necessarily make you superior to call humans a subspecies. So let's think about those traits in a human way. Stronger. Well, there's plenty of people that are stronger than other people. The world's strongest man is like 400 pounds, 7 feet, or whatever it is. He could take everybody on. Does he consider other people who are weaker than him a subspecies? No. A 90-year-old versus a 30-year-old. Well, he lived longer. He's 3 times as long. We live to like 100 these days if we're healthy. Rather, you go back decades or years or whatever time. I don't know what year specifically. I think it was Napoleon's time when it started to people started getting older. But yeah, at some point, humans only lived to the age of 30. This was due to disease and, poor hygiene and a bunch of other stuff. So it's not like the human couldn't be capable of it, but we just only live to 30. So do we consider the past humans a subspecies? No, of course we don't. More intelligent. Easy. There's a lot of smarter people on this planet. Does Stephen Hawking consider other people subspecies? No. And more experience. Well, and let's go to the vastness of the universe. Odin showed Tony Stark the universe. He's like, you're just a small little thing. Well, that's equivalent to a guy who only stayed in a small town and, built up his small town. He protects his small town. He's the Tony Stark of his small town. And then some guy who's traveled the world, who's gone around the world in 80 days, comes up to him and is like, you're an ant to me. It's because I see the world and I know it's bigger. It's like, no, the small town guy knows planet Earth is larger than his town. But to him, his town is the center of the universe because that's what he cares about. Just like Tony makes Earth the center of his universe because that's what he cares about. He understands that the universe is vast. Now, do we know how vast? Of course we don't. We can't explore too far outside our own universe, but gaining the knowledge of exactly how vast it is will not change the fact that we care about something, and what we care about becomes the center of our universe. So that just eliminates all the godlike traits. So what's left? Well, there's personal traits. There was this experiment where they gave these a group of people hammers, and they put these little bug robots that were like in the 90s or 2000s, and they told them to smash it. What they do? They easily smashed it, immediately went to town. Showed no remorse. Okay, and then they gave them the bug things again, but this time they turned the bug things on, so they're moving around, simulating life, and they told them to name it. They told them to name their bug, which creates a personal bond to the bug. Even though it's just a very simple thing to do, it definitely makes it more personal, more human, more connected to us. Now, I think no one smashed it. No one had the guts to smash the bugs after those two requirements. Now, I think even if they didn't turn the bugs on, left them, even they gave them a pet rock and just said, "Hey, name the rock," and then try to smash it, I don't think they would have done it. But if they turned the bugs on and didn't tell them to name it, I think some of them would, some of them wouldn't. And I think this is because communication and being personal with the thing is what really creates the subspecies to species narrative. If you can clearly communicate with ants, I don't think we would ever treat them like ants. If we could talk to them like we talk to each other, I think we'd coexist. We would work with each other. We would try to get things done. We would include our inventions for ants. And I think if any species gets to our level, because there's plenty of species that are super intellectual, just very survival based, if they ever evolve, which I'm pretty sure the human species, just by doing what we do, would not allow it, passively, not like try to get in their way, but just it wouldn't work. It would start people would start, something would start talking and we would start smashing because it would scare us, basically. But point is, because we could communicate with the ants, we would start getting more personal. They would start becoming more of an other species rather than a subspecies. And that comes to, the species part. These things are humanoids, these gods in these stories. They look like humans, they act like humans, but they're just celestial beings. It's like, you're still a humanoid. You're still basically a person. You're just a bigger, stronger, faster, whatever person. So, ants to us are not humans. They're not even humanoids. They're antoids. So, to make a proper representation of something that could call humans ants, they would have to be superior in every way, more stronger, smarter, blah, 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 blah. But they would also have to not look like humans. They can't be humanoids, and they can't clearly communicate with us. So then those species would be allowed to call us a subspecies and would be allowed to say, you are ants to us, because that is the proper equivalent. And it all comes down to clear communication, which all these stories have all the gods clearly communicating very easily, and personalization, which could be as simple as being a humanoid to naming you. So let's go back to these vegans. These vegans eat plants and destroy plants, yet are hell-bent with every fiber of their being to save the animals. Well, why? Why are animals so much more important than plants? Why be vegan at all? Because I would say, if it is possible, it's extremely rare to be allergic to enough stuff to be considered vegan through allergy. It's mainly a choice. Vegetarians, on the other hand, there are people who are allergic to just meat and a lot of other products like that. And then and then of course lactose intolerant people, and you can be allergic to a lot of different kinds of foods, and then you're just vegetarian because of that's just how your body is. Humans eat both plants and animals alike, and we understand other living creatures must die for other living creatures to survive. That's just the circle of life. We learned this since we were kids. We learned this from Lion King. Maybe that's why kids these days aren't accepting as much as these days. They didn't watch the Disney Lion King. So let's be honest. They don't consider plants a species to protect because they don't have fuzzy eyes, they aren't cute, they aren't fluffy, they don't walk around, they don't make cute noises, they don't twitch their little noses. They're not bunnies and kitties and piggies and blah 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 blah. And by the way, they don't protect insects either. So it's not just animals, it's mainly mammals, some fish, and whales and shit, and basically whatever entered the entertainment industry has made cute. So I'm sure there are people out there, who are vegans and they include frogs. And by the way, spiders are super cute. If you ever look at those YouTube videos of the jumping spiders, they are adorable. Little snakes that pop out of the sand, and then, do the thing with their tongue. That is fucking cute. I've seen some cockroach videos, and I can't get my mind around calling a cockroach cute, because let's face it, not everything can be cute. But I do not kill bugs. I trap them and I throw them outside, and I let Mother Nature take its toll, because I don't consider them because I feel bad when I kill them. I really don't like doing that. Even though they're not fuzzy and they're not cute and they're blah 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 blah, I don't consider them a subspecies. And same with plants. You know how smart plants are? There's a tree, and I think it's Africa. I don't know. I want to call it the Acacia tree. But basically, antelopes were eating the trees. And you can just type it up, tree kill antelopes, and it might pop up on Google. But antelopes were dying in the savannah or in these plains. And people couldn't figure out why, because there's plenty of food, plenty of water. There weren't a lot of predators. There shouldn't be this massive, holocaust on these antelopes. So what they figured out was that there's a chemical in the plant and the tree leaves that these antelopes eat that in a small dose is harmless, but in a high concentration dose is what kills them. So when they tested the dead antelopes for this specific chemical, it turns out that they did have a high concentration in their system. Then they're like, why the fuck was that? So what happened was the trees, when one tree was getting eaten, that tree sent a signal through, I think it was through the wind, but it was odorless, it was scentless, it was all that less, to the other trees to create more concentration of this chemical in their leaves. So when the antelopes moved on to those trees, the antelopes would die. And on that note, that fresh cut grass smell? That is actually grass telling other grass that death is near. Very depressing. It's actually a really nice smell, but it's actually the smell of death. So we're all sick. Vines will topple other plants and to conquer the area. Plants are super smart. The Venus flytrap, it eats meat, it closes, it's got basically a sensor system. They have nerve endings, they have feelings. They do scream on a very small, we can't hear it, but on a very small level, they do scream. Just like, if you blow a whistle, the dog whistles, that sound doesn't come out, but then the dogs can hear it. It's a very small sound. So the fact is, these are alive, these are living. So why are they a subspecies? It's because they're not human. We can't clearly communicate with them. Anyways, I'm going on a rant. So what do you think? I think it's clear communication and personalization when it comes to being basically humanoid or naming them or whatever is what makes something not a subspecies and makes it an other species.